All right, welcome back. This is CSIS 2200. We're talking about the Managing Information Systems, chapter number 11. We're moving on to enterprise systems, and I've talked a bit about ERPs in previous chapters, but in this chapter we're going to focus primarily on enterprise systems, which you could think of as ERPs. Now, this is a larger collection of managing information systems in departmental, putting them all together into one product or one program that shares all that data. So we're going to focus primarily in this chapter talking about large maybe organizations and specifically those that go through the full supply chain management. We'll look at components of an ERP, the customer relationship management. We'll look at another one called knowledge management systems. This is an area that I've been involved with in a lot. And then, of course, the enterprise resource planning. So those are the objectives for today. Looking at enterprise systems, you have to think of these as very large, complex, integrated software systems that are focused usually towards a particular industry. So they're a full spectrum or collection of applications. So there are multiple MIS systems all clustered together, working together, sharing data, sharing databases, sharing data structures so that easier data analytics can be looked at. You can get those KPIs. You can ask those known performance indicators for forecasting and whatnot. So they really help to companies show their, try to meet their goals and to help support these decision-making systems across the board, across these different organizations. So based on companies' data that they're getting it from one area, they might be able to ask questions in another area. This is extremely advantageous for companies because without the ERP system and that cooperation with data structures, these KPIs may not be able to be found or looked at in detail. So we might want to ask some basic questions when we're doing this. When we're using these large enterprise systems and we can look at data in multiple silos in departments or groups or divisions, whatever you want to call them, you can ask questions like, should we be doing whatever we're doing? And ask these questions like, is it profitable to do that? And with these systems, we can look at these questions in a much more broad base across the spectrum of especially larger organizations. Maybe even asking questions like, what should we be doing? Or what should we be manufacturing? Or what should we be selling? Could be other questions that could be asked. So asking questions of the data and being able to get the data to tell the story is really what it's all about, because it's really those questions and the answer to those questions that are going to make the company more successful than. Who is our market? Now, that would be easily answered if you had a customer relationship management component within your ERP, because you know who all of your customers are, you know where they live. You can start doing queries and questions and analytics like, where do our customers live? Where do the customers, or what method do they like, product shipped by? And then start looking at that more carefully and maybe modifying your business and your goals to make better decisions by asking these questions. When should we be doing something? Looking at the timing of the whole process. Michael Porter talks about this a lot in the supply chain, and specifically with looking at value at every stage within that supply chain. When should we and where should we do it? Should we be developing in a different country or should we be selling in a different country? All these questions can get asked with these ERP systems. So these, many of you will be working in organizations and you might think, well, I'll be working with something like Microsoft Excel or WordPerfect or Microsoft Word, I should say, or Outlook, or these small little systems, but more than likely you'll be working with a component or a module within ERP system. And again, this is really why I want you guys to dig into your area where you're going to be working, find out what modules that you might work with, specifically maybe within an ERP. It doesn't have to be, but if it is, that's great. and then start studying on that. Really get in and learn and understand what these and how they work. So how do they work, or what do they do? Well, we in this course have looked primarily at a lot of silos or individual managing information systems, and there's several of these enterprise systems that put a lot of MISs together that share that data. So what do these ERP systems help us do? Well, they help us organize resources a lot better, because if you're working within a single department and you're not sharing your information, that other departments within your company, they can't benefit by what you're doing. So coordinating your operations across departments, divisions, cities, potentially countries, if you're in a global a multinational company, for example. Scheduling, manufacturing, timing. If you can get things to click a little bit better with the timing and how things play out, you can get the product to the customer quicker, which makes a better product, more competitive, and a happier customer. Transportation or transporting the products and delivering the services comes under like the supply chain and logistics. And again, these ERP systems, they really work towards trying to optimize all of those things. And how are you going to fit in? Are you going to be in the production area within an organization? Are you going to be in the financial area? Are you going to be marketing? Are you in human resources? Are you in IT? Where are you going to fit in within this overall ERP? But what's important for students to really understand is how those other modules work with other areas. A lot of times it's easy to get isolated in your own world, in your own routine. But if you can really think about how you can work with other areas, how the marketing department can work with the finance. Like, for example, if the marketing department knows that they can sell a product and charge the product on a monthly payment, they can work out with the finance department, for example. If they don't worry about that and they just try to sell a product, they may not capture enough customers. So my point there is, with these ERP systems, to look beyond your own job sometimes and try to find out, who else do you work with, and start asking these questions like, can we organize a financial option for our customers? Could be a great question you might want to ask the finance department. The finance department says, yeah, that's a great idea. We can offer these terms and you could sell that to your customers, and get these two working together. And then the software, these ERP systems, can then work together to help the sales department sell to their customers. So that's sort of just a very small example, just off the top of my head here, about how these ERP systems can work together. And there's just so many more ideas out there. Now, ERP systems can be very specific, industry specific. Think about it. Douglas College is not like Microsoft. We're a completely different business. So as a result, Douglas College has an ERP system. It's got a educational enterprise resource system. All right, so here's what Douglas College uses. We use this program called Lucian Banner. We call it Banner. And what Banner is, it's specifically an ERP system for educational institutions. So many post-secondary systems in North America use Banner, and it's geared towards a certain size of educational institution, and it focuses around ERP components specifically for education. But would Microsoft or would another company like Amazon use this system? No, of course not, because this enterprise system is geared towards education. Now, is there only one ERP for education? No, of course, there's several. So these systems have to be selected by the institution for a variety of reasons. Usually there's a lot of people that come together in that sort of system development life cycle to implement that system into the company. We talked about the SDLC in a previous chapter, and these happen usually once every 10 to 20 years where they implement these large systems, because once you buy into one, it's an incredible amount of training, money, resources that have to be thrown at it. So this is another example of a product that's used at other institutions in British Columbia. So there's the two, that Banner is one, and then PeopleSoft is the other one that is used out there. And this is the other large enterprise resource system that has several components to it. And if you go to their webpage, you'll see they've got a financial management component, supply chain management, tools and technology for their IT, and they've also got a knowledge management system embedded into it. So they've got several modules. Each of these are their own individual managing information systems on their own, all working together within the system. So when you get hired by an organization, they could possibly have an ERP system, and you will probably fall into a particular department with a particular job and have certain rights assigned to you. My point again is that if you understand how the data works and work with other departments to try to correlate data to ask these more meaningful questions. And and that's what really management wants. If you can start coming up with these questions, even as an entry-level person, management will notice this, and this is a great way of how to get promoted within an organization, is taking those initiatives and pushing through. And this is a way of doing it. All right, so like I said, ERP systems are specific to a particular industry, whether that's education, technology, manufacturing, service industries, whatever. There are many, many ERP systems on the market. So, for example, if you guys were going out and looking for an ERP system for a particular area, a good place to start for your research would probably be to just start Googling things. Let's have a look at how you might do this. All right, let's open a Google browser and type in ERP systems. All right, now if you're typing in ERP systems, they're going to say, well, do you want a list of these? What's the meaning, examples? That they've got specific industries for accounting and so on. So I'll just pick ERP systems generally, and let's have a look at what we come up with. Now, just remember, anything with an ad is companies that are trying to sell you. Even though NetSuite is a large ERP system, Sage is another one. Some of you will, if you're in the accounting program, will already be learning some of the MIS systems that Sage provides within their ERP. I think it's QuickBooks and a couple other ones. All right, so what else is out there? Let me just let me do another search here. All right, I did another search here called just best ERP. When I did best ERP, just look at how Google organizes this. So for small businesses, manufacturing, e-commerce, medium-sized business, retails. So they've already determined like what category are these. Even if you don't put it in, just type in best ERP, it comes up with a list of some of the top ones out there. Now, I think Microsoft Dynamics is probably one of the largest, most subscribed to, used out there. It's got the most common and the most robust modules out there. It's probably one of the most expensive as well. SAP, again, I've talked about this in previous chapters. There's a lot of modules, and a lot of companies and multinational global companies use SAP products. And a lot of these are either modules of or of one of the two right here. And if you go through and you look at all of the different ones in here, they start becoming more specialized. Some of these are country oriented to certain regions and countries and industries. So it's really confusing when you look at all of these. If you go through the list and you say, well, what other ERP systems are the most commonly used ones out there? You have to be careful, because if there's companies like Forbes, they may be paid to put companies' products up there. So sometimes it's hard. PC Magazine is a good one to look at for because they tend to have the least bias that I've found, at least that has been in the past. But I still think it's a company. They're for profit. They're probably going to be susceptible to companies paying to say, well, our product is the best one out there. All right. So anyway, just keep that in mind. What I do is I look for ERP systems when I'm doing something like Indeed.com, and I will do an ERP system right in the search. So let's go back in here. And this is kind of how I just start doing my research to find out what ERP systems are being used in my particular industry. So I'm talking about you guys. So if you're in accounting and you typed in ERP, like which ones are out there? Is this an accounting position or marketing position, or whatever you guys are looking at doing? What field are you going into? This could be an educational one right here. supply chain management. Anyway, you have to go through it and dig in. My point there is once you click on and open it up, you can go through the list here and see which products in the area that you're studying for or wanting to work in are they using. And if you read these discussions, this sounds like one of our slides from this PowerPoint presentation. So kind of showing you how important it is, supply chain guides. All right, and you can see right here, this job right here, although I don't know if you want to do what they're talking about here, but a lot of this stuff is we're covering in this managing information course. This is documents, document management. Oh yeah, okay. So this looks like a CSIS 2200 course right here. So definitely wanted to be get top marks in this course if you were applying for this job right here. Anyway, it's not specific here. Unfortunately, it says here it's looking for an integrated enterprise resource planning system. It doesn't know which one. It doesn't say which one it is. But if you guys do a little more research, find out which products are out there. The one that is probably the most common is Microsoft Dynamics. So if you were to just take the word dynamic, and this is another tip I'll show you, is if you did a search for that product in here and just see how many jobs. So there's 3,000 jobs in Vancouver that have posted that they're looking for, Dynamics. Okay, that could be not just Dynamics, but maybe we should have Microsoft Dynamics. It could be MS Dynamics, so you'd have to do a few different searches. And there we go, that looks a little better. All right, Operation Management Assistant. Okay, of course, they need a product like Microsoft Dynamics. So for your project, now Microsoft Dynamics is a massive ERP. There's no way that you'd be able to cover any of it in any detail, but you could take a small module of it and learn it and do your presentation on that, for example. Anyways, I hope this is helping again on how you guys can organize for your research presentation project. All right, let's move on to the next topic, which is talking about supply chain management. Now, supply chain management is that sort of the logistics component of how the products come from raw materials into the customer's hands. Now, you guys have to do you have to watch a Linda course. It's on supply chain fundamentals, and I've added that as the recommended course for your assignment this week. So hopefully you guys will watch that in conjunction with this and learn a little bit more about how that works, because this is this course gives a very good overview of how supply chain management works. And whether you go into supply chain management or not, it's important for everyone within an organization to see how it works and where they fit into the chain. Which link in the chain are you going to be? So that supply chain management is really, again, and we talked about this before, is the supplier, whether that's raw materials, developing it into a basic board. Let's say it's a wood product. You cut a tree down and you cut the boards into some kind of a plank, and then you manufacture that into some kind of furniture, and then you transport that to a store, and then the broker in the store sells it to the customer. So supply chain management is simply taking the raw material, the tree, and getting it to you as a wooden chair in your home. In very simplistic terms, that's what supply chain is. And again, I've repeated this several times, it's to get that product or the service from that very basic raw materials to the customer in a timely and effective way to make the most profit. And if you think about this back into Michael Porter's value chain and the supply chain, what Porter is talking about there again is that he looks at each stage to see within these large organizations where they can find the best value and amplify that to get the best profit for the company. Because certain links in the chain will be more profitable than others, but they need the complete chain to make it work. So that's where ERPs come in, because ERPs work across the entire chain. ERPs work from the raw materials in procurement. Procurement is the acquisition of these raw materials, where you're acquiring or procuring these raw materials, and these ERPs are helping all along the supply chain. All right, so like I just said here, that the Michael porter's value chain, it helps identify at every stage. And you can think of this as a supply chain or a value chain, where the inbound logistics is the inbound transportation of raw materials into some kind of operations of converting those into boards, or converting those into chairs, and then transferring that to a marketing store and selling it, and eventually having service as well. There's services added to this chain, because there's always follow-up with companies, and there's more money that can be added sometimes during the service component. Like you think about a car, you buy a car, and a big component price of a car is the service. So kind of a metaphor that you might think of when you hear this term logistics. You hear this word logistics a lot when you're talking about the supply chain. Supply chain is moving and transferring from one to the next, and then adding value at each stage. And the logistics is that process of the planning and the putting it together in a logical sequence. So the metaphor I put together here is for you to, if you're planning a vacation. I mean, we all like to plan a vacation. So you start off with the big question. And again, this all comes down to questions at the beginning. You know, where are you going on your vacation? What's the timeline and schedule? Maybe what's your budget? Where are you going to stay? What hotel are you going to go into? What's the modes of transportation are you going to take? What kind of clothes? Based on those questions, logistically, we have to pack accordingly. If we're going to go on a ski trip, would be very different than if we're planning a beach vacation, for example. We might also need to think about international travel. Do we need a visa to travel to that country? Well, we need a passport no matter what nowadays. Buying a ticket, where are we going to buy it? What currency is it in? Do we need insurance? All of these questions have to be answered. Other ones that I didn't put in here might be even, what's the risk? If you have risk, you need to have possibly insurance in there. Security issues. You know, we think about this when we're traveling. Transportation to the hotel, like every step of the way, you think about it, to having fun on your vacation, you need to go through a logistic process in your head. Now, whether you or your travel partner or a company that helps organize it all, they're doing the logistics. So logistics is a process by sequentially organizing and planning to get to the destination. One more thought I'll add to this is, did I miss anything in here? And probably yes. And some of you probably know, when you guys go on a vacation, sometimes things don't go smoothly because unforeseen things occur. Could you have anticipated that? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So the ultimate goal of logistics is to collect as much data, ask as many questions, and prepare as best as you can to have a smooth transfer logistical process as possible. Again, it comes down to thinking about every single step of the way. Let's have a look at from a business point. Typical kind of standard model of logistics planning for a product delivery could be that the company's trying to move a product to the other side of the world, from one country to the other. So questions like, where's the product coming from? Where's the product going to? What are the shipping options? Is there laws, customs, and documentation that needs to happen? Is there tariffs on it? That's one that's missing from here. Can you come up with others? Transportation products, how is it going to be transferred? Is it faster? Is it better? Is it cheaper to go by truck? Is it shipped by plane? A lot of times when we buy products ourselves as consumers, this is where the consumer gets involved, because we can select our shipping methods and we pay accordingly. Is there repackage? Do you have to repackage your product once it arrives? Is there insurance in case it doesn't arrive or it gets broken? Is there security concerns about what you're shipping? Is there a backup plan? What is the backup plan if it doesn't go through? So this is again, questions and organizing logistical, and that's what you do when you get into logistics, is you get into asking these questions at every step of the way. Here's a great kind of summary of how this would work. So let's say we're creating some polyester clothing. So polyester is based on an oil product. You're going to need to get that out of the ground, that product has to be manufactured into some kind of a product, like some kind of oil-based synthetic product. It has to be refined. It has to be sent to a manufacturer to convert that product into clothing or into fabric. That clothing product has to be shipped and distributed. The distribution, again, is a very large component, and it gets sent out to maybe a distribution center or retail store, and then finally it gets passed on to the customer. So the logistics is how a product comes out of the ground into the consumer. And a lot of times, and most times, we don't think about this. We just take a product that we have every day and we just use it, but we don't really think about the process that it took to get there. But many of you are going to be working in industries that have a logistical supply chain in a variety of different products and services, but there's a lot of similarities in all of them. Now, you might not be in a company that has the full, from the beginning of the raw materials to the customer. That's kind of rare nowadays. But with these large international global organizations, and they're partnering up and they're merging, that does happen. But a lot of times you will be part of a supply chain component within a company, within your company. So you might be working with a partner in the supply chain. So maybe you're working for Federal Express. So you are part of the shipping component, possibly, of that supply chain, or the transportation. You could be shipping and transporting it in both of these, possibly, if you're in something like Federal Express or UPS. And the goal there, by partnering up with certain groups, is that you're going to try to improve that overall logistics or the procedures for delivering the products and the service as fast and as cheap as possible. That's the ultimate goal or aim. So it's something that, again, you should keep in mind, that your organization may be working with partner companies to provide a service or a product. And how do you fit into that? And how does the ERP system? A lot of times companies, when they're working with other partnering companies, they will try to get partnering companies that have the same ERP system so that the data can be easily transferred, and they can do things like electronic data exchange and electronic data transfers using similar ERP systems. Okay, I've already hit the 27-minute mark, so I think I'll cut it off here, and I will see you guys in part number 2.